In this, the 70th episode of the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast, we are going to have a conversation with Jill Weisenberger, a registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified diabetes care and education specialist, and a certified health and wellness coach. And we're going to talk about portion control. We are going to take the mystery out of eating and eating for amazing diabetic health. This episode of the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast is sponsored by my diabetes supplier, US Med. US Med offers free shipping and a 90-day supply with every order. To see how they can simplify your diabetes care, call 1-877-840-8218. I did, and I can feel the love. Remember, there is a much better solution, US Med. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen. I am your host, Chef Robert Lewis, the Happy Diabetic, and this is the internet's most delicious cooking podcast. I'm here in the kitchen getting ready to explore a healthy diabetic lifestyle. I want to take the mystery out of healthy cooking and explore some amazing foods and my diabetic journey with all my successes and all my challenges. So let me help you live your best happy diabetic lifestyle. So welcome to the kitchen. And if you're new to the show, I am so happy you're here today. Again, welcome. So welcome, everybody. And in today's episode, Jill Weisenberger joins us for an interview, a conversation about portion control, eating healthy, and just navigating some oftentimes very confusing and contradictory ideas about eating healthy and eating in a lifestyle that is great for diabetics. We also have the recipe of the podcast, Annie's Vegetable Boats of Love, and of course, so much more. So what can I say? I'm just so happy that you're here today. Stay tuned, sit back, grab your favorite beverage, or both hands on the steering wheel, and we will get right to it. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast. We have a very special guest in the kitchen. I want to introduce you to Jill Weisenberger, a registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified diabetes care and education specialist, certified health and wellness coach. Jill, how are you today?
I am super duper, and I'm glad to be chatting with you.
Are you ready to get happy?
Hey, I started happy.
I love that. Well, Jill, I just introduced you and told all the happy diabetics out there a little bit about you, but why don't you fill in the blanks?
Okay. Well, here I am in Southeast Virginia, being my dietitian self and my diabetes educator self, and having a good time helping people make behavioral changes that actually stick. So I try to fill that gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. And there's a big difference. People often just take on too much, too big goals that are too big, and it's just hard to make the change. So I try to fill in that gap between knowing what to do and doing it.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast. We're going to learn about what maybe some of those gaps could be and how to really combat that. So, Jill, how did you begin your journey in this work? How did you get started?
Kind of by accident. I call myself the accidental dietitian because I was working in marketing and public relations and not loving it. And I had met a friend who was a dietitian, and I just found that interesting. But I had zero science background. I have my degree in communications, and I was working in marketing and public relations. But one day I was walking on the University of Florida campus looking for a new marketing and public relations job. Back in the day when they had job boards and you could go and read the jobs availabilities. And that's where I got my bachelor's degree. And I was just walking across the campus looking at jobs I didn't want. And I said, heck no. I crossed the street over to Tigert Hall where registration is, and I applied to graduate school, which of course they wouldn't take me because I had no math and science, but I did get admitted as a post-baccalaureate student. It took me 4.5 years to get a 2-year master's degree in nutrition because I had to start with algebra, Chem 1, Chem 2, Chem 3, biochem, advanced biochem, all of that before I could even take nutrition courses.
Wow. And so how long have you been in this space, helping people to make a difference in their lives?
32 years. About 32 years as a dietitian and about 15 years or so in diabetes specifically.
So you've heard it and seen it all.
And I've lived it all, you know.
There you go. Perfect.
That's how I got interested in nutrition, is managing my own weight and my own health. That's how it all happened.
That's how it happened for me. Managing my own diabetes led me to create recipes and things that I can help people who have diabetes. So
absolutely, it's the way to do it.
I know, I agree. Well, this is the Happy Diabetic Kitchen. So we love to eat, we love to cook in this space. So what are your earliest food memories? Maybe tell us about food or dishes or persons that prepared them that really are special in your heart.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is a dessert that my Hungarian grandmother made called palashinta. So it's a little pancake, like a crepe, and she would fill it with walnuts and honey, or sometimes she'd fill it with jelly, but the walnuts and honey was my favorite, and put powdered sugar on the outside. I recently found her recipe, just couldn't believe I came across it. I knew I had it somewhere, couldn't find it, and then I found it. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I guess another thing that she used to make is called krautspekel, or it's called something like that. It's noodles and cabbage with a lot of pepper.
Okay.
Just loved it. So those are probably my favorite food memories as a child. Though I can also tell you one more thing. I don't remember this, but I've been told it. When my father one time told me I was full of bologna, I corrected him and told him it was cookies.
Oh, I love that. What kind of cookies?
Probably chocolate chip.
Yeah, that would be my go-to. Well, I know the answer to this next question, but I'll just ask it anyways. Do you like to cook?
I do like to cook, yes. I don't like to cook every single day, which I still do. Yeah. But I love to get in the kitchen, play around. And just the other day, I was thinking, okay, I want something with the spices that I haven't used in a while. And I made the most delicious chicken dish. And it took me like 5 minutes to come up with it. It was just amazing.
Do you have a favorite food?
I have, no, but sometimes I think about how hard it would be to give up certain things. Like, could I give up coffee? Ugh, can't imagine. Could I give up tea? I wouldn't like that either. Chocolate? Oh, please, no. So I don't really know favorite food, but I have a favorite style. I like lots of vegetables, smaller amounts of meats. I love fish. I like, a lot of vegetarian type things. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that I have a favorite food. Peanut butter is pretty awesome.
Okay, I might ask you about that later, so be ready for that.
Okay,
so since we're talking about food, Jill, why don't we talk about, what can you share to the happy diabetics out there listening, some tips about healthy eating for people either living with type 2 diabetes or any kind of diabetes, or maybe have this diagnosis of prediabetes, which I want to ask you about a little bit later.
Right. So prediabetes is something I specialize in. And I think the first thing is to accept that these changes are for you, not because you are being told you have to, but they are for you. That's a much more empowering place to be than I have to change my diet. I am changing my diet because it is to take care of me. It's a much more empowering place. And I see people do so much better when they start with that attitude. But let's say maybe you've already had diabetes for a while and you're just looking at, what are some good meals or some good foods, or how can I make this simple on myself? honestly, most people with diabetes by now have probably heard of the plate method. I think it is so simple and it is so good for anybody, not just people with diabetes, but just in short, we take like a 9-inch plate, divide it in half. Half of that plate is filled with non-starchy vegetables. The other half is divided between a protein food and a starchy food. So proportion-wise, you have twice as much non-starchy vegetable as anything else. That is such a simple way of making a meal, and it is balanced, and you have portion control and you have proportion. So that's just something that I say is a great way to go. I mean, there's so many healthy ways to eat for diabetes management and prediabetes management or diabetes prevention. There's so many ways. But if I'm just starting with somebody, I think that's probably the simplest way to get going.
I love that idea because it's so visual. I've always told people, the palm of your hand is about a 4-ounce portion of something. So there's your protein, there's your starchy your starch, and then put both your hands together, and that's your vegetable portion.
Very similar.
It's very similar. And I think that's simple for people to understand.
Right. And you can use that with a mixed meal. Like if you have a stew or something, or a soup, or even a sandwich, you don't have to pull all the pieces out and put them on your plate.
Right.
You can just look at it and say, do I have twice as much non-starchy vegetable as anything else? And do I have about equal amount of a starchy food and a protein food? And if the answer is no to any of those, you just add something. Right. So do you need more vegetables? So you'll have a salad or some sliced tomato or a roasted broccoli or something like that.
And in your mind, how important is portion control for someone living with diabetes?
Very important. And that is true whether somebody has weight to lose, weight to gain, or just trying to maintain their weight. Portion control, it really is an issue for most Americans. I think it's an issue for most Americans. But when it comes to blood sugar control, when you know that the more carbohydrate you eat, the higher your blood sugar goes. The more calories you eat, the higher your weight goes. So you could have somebody who's slim, but still has to watch portions of certain foods because of the blood sugar response. And then you could have somebody who wants to lose weight, and they're having to watch the portions of all of their foods for weight control, but looking at carbohydrate foods in particular, watching the portions of that for blood sugar control. But that's why I like the plate method, because it's built in. It's just built in there. And then if you're still hungry, you throw some more non-starchy vegetables on your plate.
Right. I mean, and portion control doesn't mean starving yourself.
No, we shouldn't be uncomfortable. I don't believe in that. But right. I think that when we take the time to appreciate our food, prepare what we like, plan a balanced meal, that it is easier to be satisfied on less food. Right. If you just think about it, I remember this from when I was dating. I wanted to eat more slowly, like a polite young woman. I've been married for 37 years or something like that.
Okay,
so
congratulations. Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm going on
really
40. I'm going on 43.
All right. Awesome. But I remember it wasn't a weight control thing. It was more like slowing down and being polite. I didn't want to pick up a burrito and shove it in my face and be done in 5 bites. I wanted to take the green beans and the chicken or the salmon and cut it into small portions and use a fork, and that's slowed down. And honestly, it's more satisfying in the long run because it's taken longer to eat. Thinking about your food, you're enjoying it. But when you ask about portion control, it is a way to have your favorite foods, right? I'm not giving up chocolate. I'm not giving up lemon bars. I'm not going to give up my favorite foods.
Right.
But if I'm watching the portions and it's small, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right. I mean, a lot of people, and I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. Because a lot of people, especially Matter of fact, I just ran into someone today who has type 2 diabetes who experiences this same thing from family or friends. They don't understand the disease. They don't understand their need for nutrition or whatever, and judge them on the things that they eat. Every week, I bake the whole wheatiest, tree barkiest, fibrous bread I can make.
I want that recipe.
I would love to show you. It's super simple. I haven't bought a loaf of bread since before COVID because I just kind of got into this bread making thing.
Yeah.
But people say, well, wait a second, or why are you eating that cheeseburger? Or, why are you, what do you say to people like that?
What do I say to people with diabetes? Or what do I say?
Yes, to say to people with diabetes. Because you know what? Those people, like Bill Polanski said, he calls them the diabetic police.
That's what they are.
They are. And you have to try to educate them if you can. But what do you say to people with diabetes who come across that and people say, you shouldn't be eating that? Unless, of course, their doctor has told them, if you eat that, your leg will fall off. That's totally different. You have diverticulitis, you can't eat strawberries.
Exactly. Exactly. There are things. You have kidney disease. There's certain.
Of course. But for those that don't, what comfort could you give us?
That you already know that person is incorrect, but it comes from a loving place.
It does.
Right. So first of all, you should know that it sounds like you're being judged, and maybe you are. It does come from a loving place, and that person is incorrect, and it is your job to help them understand. So I think anybody who wants to help needs to be educated how to help. So could you say something like, I appreciate your concern. I think you really don't understand what my diet plan is, and I'll be happy to share more with you another time. Or, I see that you really want to help. Let me tell you the best way to help me. So I think we have to educate people.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I mean, you don't have to be defensive about it. Help them to learn more about what your needs are.
Right. Now, some people are cruel. And that's different. Yes. And for those people, you just got to walk away.
That's right. Thank you very much for your opinion, and walk away. I totally agree.
You're dumb. I don't like you. Go away.
Right. Exactly right. Have you had a diabetic or a nutritionist aha moment in the last couple of years where you really thought to yourself, okay, I've just had this aha moment?
Being enlightened about bariatric surgery. Because for a long time, I thought that bariatric surgery was a medical treatment for a behavioral issue. I am very happy to say I no longer think that I think that obesity is not a behavioral issue. It is a medical issue. It's much more complicated than pushing yourself away from the table. And when you look at the research on diabetes control and diabetes remission with bariatric surgery in certain populations, it's very, very impressive. Mm-hmm. And it happens quickly. Mm-hmm. Even before significant weight is lost, depending on the type of surgery. So we know that there's something metabolic going on just from the surgery that's not even the weight loss. Very cool.
Interesting. What do you find most challenging working with newly diagnosed or even pre-diabetic? And maybe before you answer that, if you could just briefly give us what really is pre-diabetic mean?
Sure. You have prediabetes when you are on the same path as somebody with type 2 diabetes. You just aren't as far along. So it is a continuum of two things: insulin resistance. So your body doesn't use insulin as well as it could or should or used to, and less insulin production. So it's the same. Somebody with prediabetes has those two problems. Somebody with type 2 diabetes has those two problems. It just, the only difference is the degree. And so prediabetes will be defined by blood sugar that is above normal but lower than type 2 diabetes. And it's the number one risk factor for type 2 diabetes. It's also a risk factor for cardiovascular disease.
Does prediabetes mean you will become a diagnosed type 2 diabetic?
No. Some people with prediabetes will stay in the prediabetes range for a long time. Some will reverse their prediabetes and get into normal blood sugar levels.
Mm-hmm.
And some will go into type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
But it is the number one risk factor for type 2 diabetes. So if you have that diagnosis of prediabetes, that's your opportunity to turn things around.
Yeah.
The earlier you work to turn things around, the easier it is to turn things around.
Yeah. And listen, you know as well as I do, you can live a healthy life being diagnosed with diabetes.
That is correct.
It's not a death sentence.
It is not at all.
But managing it is doable.
It's work, but yes, it's
work. It is doable. So what's the most what do you find most challenging working with newly diagnosed people with diabetes or prediabetes?
I wonder if this is going to surprise you. The thing that I find most challenging is getting people to slow down and not try to fix it by tomorrow. It's not like a specific diet or new habit or eat this food or don't eat that food. That's not what I find challenging. It's that so often people get into the mindset, I have to change this instantly and it needs to be dramatic. Well, we all know people, and maybe we've done it ourselves. I know I did it myself a million times before I became a dietitian, that we have in our minds, we're going to change our diets. We're going to hit the gym 5 days a week. And it works great until it doesn't work anymore, right? And it always doesn't work anymore. So that, I think, is my number one challenge, is helping people to realize, slow down so we can make it work, not just for a week or a month or a year, but forever.
A lifestyle.
Yes.
It's kind of like running a marathon. And, I like to think of it as when you start a race like that, you can't see the finish line, but it's there and you're not going to get it in the first mile. It's just, you got to work at it, because then you get a big heel and you slow down and maybe you have a failure and maybe your shoe falls off. Put your shoe back on and stand up and keep rolling along.
I like that visual.
Jill, what are you most proud of in the work that you do? What are you most proud of?
I don't know about proud, but I can tell you what excites me the most.
Okay.
And I'll be thinking about proud.
Okay.
I think what excites me the most is when I'm working with somebody and I can see their posture change. Literally, I see a change physically because they just got something. Like they just understood that they don't have to follow super strict diets and be miserable all the time. They just understood that it's normal to slip up and eat too many brownies and have a high blood sugar. It's that it's not a character assassination. It's not a character flaw. It is part of life. Mm-hmm. So when I can see somebody having that, you literally can see it in their posture or in their faces, that they just had that big aha moment. That's one of the things that excites me the most. The other, of course, is hearing people say, look at what my A1C is now, or look at how my triglycerides or cholesterol or blood pressure or whatever has changed.
Right.
And so I'm still thinking about proud.
Yeah, that's okay. And a lot of times, I know for me, when I was newly diagnosed, I would always beat myself up on how bad I was yesterday or the day before. And I like to tell people, do you know the difference between a rear view mirror on your car and the windshield? And it's not because it's where you've been, it's because it's where you're going. So the windshield is much bigger. Focus on the future, not what's been behind you. Because look, you can't redo yesterday. You can only do better today than the day before.
Well, if you just think about, how does a toddler learn to walk? It's not because the parents and older siblings and caregivers yell at that toddler every time he or she falls.
Right.
We encourage them on. People change better when they feel better about themselves.
Right.
If they believe they're capable, they're more likely to change in the right direction. If they believe they're not capable, then why would they do it? Why?
Yeah. I know for me, once I found a community of people with diabetes, that really helped me. I really thought when I was diagnosed, I was alone. I didn't know anybody who was diabetic, and I felt like weird about it until I went to a hospital support group, and there was 10 or 15 diabetics in a room talking about their challenges and poking their fingers, and oh my God. And all of a sudden I thought, hey, there's a community here. Mm-hmm. And I know that you are a big advocate of that, and you do things to bring people together in community, which is, I think, so important. And so if you're out there listening and are not in community, there's a lot of, there's Facebook groups, and mm-hmm. I've got a Facebook group, and you've got connections on your website where you can hang out with people in community and know that you are not alone.
I think that's true with any aspect of life that we have challenges with. If you just think about parenting, when my kids were little, I wanted to have a group of people who were going through the same things.
Right, right.
Same thing with all the health issues. That's the thing, though, is like when you're a parent, it doesn't feel weird to say, I want to have a community of other parents so we can talk about what we're going through. That doesn't seem weird. But for some reason, when we think about it in terms of something like diabetes or weight or some other health issue, we think like, I'm supposed to be able to do it on my own. And I don't need to be hearing about other people's problems, and they don't need to be hearing about my problem. But it's like a bit of a stubbornness about taking care of ourselves. We should just be able to do it.
Right. Yeah, I tell people, get over that. Because if you want to move forward, do whatever you need to do to make this work for you. And for me, hanging around people with diabetes has been a big help for me.
Hey, I always say make easy your best friend.
Oh, I love that. Make easy your best friend.
Yep. Make easy your BFF. I say those things all the time. So just as an example, do you want to rely on willpower so you don't eat the snacks that you bought in your groceries? Or do you want to put your groceries in the trunk so you don't have to rely on willpower? It's a simple thing, but that's a way to make easy your best friend. It's like you could be driving home thinking, oh, I really want those chips, or I really want those cookies that I bought for somebody. And it's like, you can dig in there, or you can just not have that temptation by putting it away.
Right. I think that's a gold nugget right there. I love that.
Easy your BFF.
Easy your BFF. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, Jill, why don't you, I know you've got some stuff going on. You want to share with our happy diabetics out there what programs you've got, or what do you want? Let's tell them what's going on in your life.
My newest book is coming out in May. And it's the prediabetes. It's called Prediabetes, A Complete Guide, 2nd edition. And I am super proud of this book. It's my 4th book, but this is the 2nd edition of it. And of all my books, this one is the one I am the most proud of, because I think I put so much of my soul in there, so much of my coaching experience that I really try to help people learn to self-coach. Mm-hmm. And it is for people with prediabetes, but I know a lot of people who don't have prediabetes who still use the book because it's basically healthy eating. And I talk about the plate method and so forth. Right. So I have that. And I'm also super proud of my first book, which is Diabetes Weight Loss Week by Week. That's the first book I ever wrote. And the other things that I have is I teach some online courses. So I have digital courses available for people to either do on their own. And then I have one big one for prediabetes that is teacher-led, instructor-led. So I lead it. But some of the others, I have a prediabetes meal planning course. That one is just a short, I call it a crash course. It's super short. People can do that whenever they want. I have a course about making behavior change, which uses a lot of my coaching skills. And that one is also, people can do that one whenever they want.
Awesome.
So yeah, I do lots of things. I really like helping people change their behavior. So it's not a matter of, let me just give you one more bit of information, but let me help you use that information.
Yeah. I love that. I'll put all the links to all that information in the show notes so people will be able to find it, find you. So, wow. Well, Jill, this has been great having you on the podcast.
I love chatting with you. Anything
else you want to talk about before we get into our exciting game with very big prizes?
I think we have covered all kinds of things. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm Jill at jillweisenberger.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Jill. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled you asked me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And when we come back, everybody, we will have Jill play the Rapid Fire 411 game. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Podcast. We've got Jill Weisenberger in the kitchen today. And Jill, are you ready to play a game?
I am so ready.
Fabulous prizes could possibly be coming your way. So here's what's going to happen, Jill. I will ask you a series of rapid fire questions, and you simply choose your preference. For example, I might ask you butter or olive oil, riding a bike or hiking, that kind of thing. And just what comes to your head, tell us what your favorite is. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Let's start with an easy one. Olive oil or coconut oil?
Olive oil.
Let me just divulge for a second. Are you a fan of coconut oil?
No, I'm not a fan of coconut oil.
Okay. I knew there was a reason I liked you. Okay. Pomegranate or apples?
Pomegranates are more fun.
I know, I agree. They stay in your clothes, but they are fun.
In your walls. I had to repaint once.
Oh my gosh. I love pomegranates. Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles. Again, they're more fun.
Grilled chicken or grilled fish?
Oh, fish for sure.
Chunky or smooth peanut butter?
I need them both.
Perfect. Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day?
St. Patrick's Day. Again, it's silly. My husband is Irish. My daughters are half Irish. They have bright red hair. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Zucchini or green beans?
Zucchini.
Bacon or ice cream?
Ice cream for sure.
Or bacon ice cream?
No.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this. Coffee or tea? You got to pick one. Because I know you like them both. Coffee or tea?
I totally pick coffee, but I am team coffee and I am team tea. And please don't make me choose.
Okay, I won't. Superhero or supervillain?
Hero.
I agree. Roller coasters or merry-go-rounds?
These days, merry-go-rounds.
Yeah, me too. And finally, Jill, if you could break bread with anyone, past or present, who would it be?
You.
Really? Why would that be?
Well, because I think you're super fun and you have apparently this awesome bread recipe.
All right, Jill. Well, listen, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. Thanks for being here. I'm honored to have you.
I am honored you asked me, and I've had a great time.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, when we come back, the recipe of the podcast. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is the recipe of the podcast. This is Annie's Veggie Boats of Love. I named this after my niece, Annie Smolinski. Episode number 52. Check it out. An amazing type 1 diabetic, athlete, and one of the nicest people on the planet. So we created this recipe to help her eat healthy because she was just a little girl at the time. Super basic. Here's the ingredients. And of course, you'll find this recipe on my blog at happydiabetic.com. You'll need a green pepper cut in half and cleaned out, or red pepper, or an orange pepper. Some celery washed, a carrot washed and peeled, some pea pods, maybe broccoli, your favorite salad dressing like buttermilk dressing, for example. And all you're going to do is cut the pepper in half. Put about 1 ounce of dressing in the bottom of the whole pepper and fill it full of sliced carrots, sliced celery, some pea pods, maybe some broccoli. And if you like a lower fat substitute, use a little lower fat dressing, but really delicious buttermilk or blue cheese dressing. And then just sit with a book or in front of a movie and just dip away. And then the cool thing is when you're done, you eat the bowl. It's a fun way. And listen, 2 servings is about 130 calories and 10 grams of carbohydrates. And remember, whenever you're serving vegetables, especially raw, always wash them in ice cold water before preparing them. Okay, that's it. The recipe of the podcast. We will be right back. So I know this is hard to believe, but I recently signed up for Medicare. Now, what about my Libre 2 system from Abbott? As my pharmacy was trying to figure it all out, all the complicated paperwork, I was getting a little frustrated, and quite honestly, so were they. So I called US Med to see if there was a better way. And guess what? There is. Their motto is better service, better care. It's what they call white glove service. And I was worn out by having to make multiple trips to the pharmacy, only to discover the orders were not even ready. Long lines, or they would say, we need to call your doctor. We need to get confirmation for the refill. It went back and forth and back and forth. And after about 2 weeks of this, I absolutely had it. I would reach out to the pharmacy and they would say, the doc never called us back, or they never followed up. That's the thing I hated the most. Are you ready for US Med to always provide you 90 days worth of supplies with fast, free shipping? Yes, free shipping. Look, they carry everything from insulin pumps to diabetic testing supplies to the latest CGMs, the Freestyle Libre 2 and 3, and the Dexcom G6. You know my love for the Libre 2 system, and US Med is the #1 distributor for the Libre 2 systems nationwide. Look, if you're just starting with Medicare like me, US Med should be your very next call. They accept Medicare nationwide and a broad private insurance coverage with over 800, that's right, 800 private insurers, plus an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. If you're looking for supplies from everything from insulin pumps to diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs, and you're looking for better service, easier service, delivered right to your door, free shipping, US Med is who you should be getting a hold of. Dial this number right now. Well, why don't you wait till the podcast is over? 888-885-0012, or simply go to usmed.com/happy diabetic. Don't wait any longer. Oh, wait a second. I think that's my doorbell. I think that's US Med delivering my 90-day supply now. Call them or go to the website usmed.com/happy diabetic now. Again, don't wait any longer. The Happy Diabetic does not provide medical advice. This podcast is offered only to provide general information regarding health, wellness, and nutrition. Information in this podcast is really not intended to be a substitute for medical treatment performed by a healthcare professional. So, if you have questions, consult them before making any major changes to your diet or your eating or exercise lifestyle. I'm not a doctor or a certified educator. I'm a chef living with type 2 diabetes just like you. Although I have 3 children, Attila, Dracula, and Frankenstein, that makes me a psychiatrist of sorts. If you're loving what you hear in the kitchen, be sure to share this podcast, The Happy Diabetic Kitchen, with all your friends and family. And if you want to hear the latest episodes, just head over to my website, happydiabetic.com. We'll always have them there or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Of course, hoping this is your favorite podcast. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss a single recipe or podcast episode. Our podcast is sponsored by my friends at US Med Supply. Our theme music by the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Band, and of course, our kitchen mascots, Scout and Tucker. This year, better than last year. This month, better than last month. This week, better than last week. And this day, better than yesterday. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And let me leave you with this thought. The amazing chef Wolfgang Puck once said, "Cooking is like painting or writing a song. Just as there are only so many notes or so many colors, there are only so many flavors. It's how you combine them that sets you apart." Okay, everyone, thanks for tuning in. And remember this, no one loves you more than me. See you next time.